Welcome everybody to the Kaiju Clash podcast.
I apologize to my audience out there. What I did was highly unprofessional. And if you don't understand what I mean by that, that's probably a good thing.
So thanks to the audience that's listening that I am thankful for. I'm gonna have to go the next 30 minutes with blue balls. So once again, I said this is the Kaiju Clash podcast on all things Godzilla, Gamera, Toho, and more. We got a good one for you this week, the Kaiju Revolution. What do you think about it? Is it big? Is it gonna come to nothing? What do you think? I have my idiotic opinion as well as others. So before we get into all of that, I like to give some mentions to the Double O Wrestling Review, the second best podcast in the world, just behind the Kaiju Clash podcast, number 1. You can go to our website, kaijuklashdpodcast.com, and you can go to the Double O link from my other podcasts. You can click on that, and it'll take you to oowrestlingreview.com. If you're an avid wrestling fan, and if you're a jarhead, you might like that site and that podcast, by the way. So, our second mention, Kaiju Battle Stories, far right tab, kaijuklashdpodcast.com. These are fantasy battle stories done by Duncan. He takes whatever the public opinion likes, and he makes stories out of that monster against that monster. If you're bored, if you have 10 minutes, or if you like reading in general, I highly suggest you check those out. I have been behind, I will say, and I will apologize for being late, but I do have some good excuses. One that I will get to when I get to the news that is non-existent because of some blimp. I will talk about that blimp later on. If you don't know what I'm talking about, there is a blimp accident, supposedly, and out of all the places in the world, it just had to go into my hometown, the disclosed location of Bloomsburg, Pennsylvania. So I'll get into that blimp talk later on, and how it affected me, and how it will affect you too. So before all of that, we have to get to feedback about the Kaiju Revolution. So some people got, I guess, I don't know if what the question I said was really confusing or what, because two of the feedbacks I got were from fantasy movies I want to see, not really Kaiju Revolution stuff. I didn't understand that. Maybe, I don't think they're idiots. Maybe I'm the idiot who worded it wrong, but I thought how I worded it was alright. I don't see what I did wrong, but first one from James, saying, I would like to see Godzilla team up with Mothra and Anguirus to work together with Ultraman and maybe 4 other Ultra Brothers to fight King Ghidorah, Gigan, Destroyer, Hyper Zeton, and Kaiser Belial, and Ali Triperor. And the reason I butchered those names is, one, I'm assuming those are kind of Ultraman things. Sorry, I'm moving the mic a lot. Ultraman things I've never seen. Out of all the things I want to see, I haven't seen Ultraman stuff yet. I will in the near future. And 2, I'm doing something new this week. Normally I have paper notes in front of me. This time I'm going electronic. Kaiju Clash going green. Whee! So, 1, I can already tell a problem. The words are too small, and my laptop is quite a whiles away from there. Just barely in my reach. And 2, there is a glare on the screen which makes it really hard to read. So, I hope that doesn't make this show bad. I'm sure you don't really want to hear my boring week, so let's get into the feedback. Kaiju Revolution, is it real? Do you want it again? Coming from next. I'm acting as if I just begun it. Wow, I must have dementia. Next, from Alexander. He got a picture of a poster saying Viva la Revolution. I thought that was nice. That was funny. I got a good chuckle out of it. So I had to share that with the world. Next, from Cliff. Well, the genre does seem to be seeing a bit of resurgence as of late. I don't mind in the least, but I am worried that it won't maintain momentum and fizzle out. And my quote, just like every other fad. Next, Nathan, the other person who didn't really understand my question. A good remake of The Beast from 20,000 fathoms, preferably the one where the main character isn't running around looking for his girlfriend, wife, child, or even dog. Concentrate. My second error on the monster. So again, I think they're giving their movie fantasies rather than their Kaiju Revolution thoughts. I don't know. I said, what do you think about the Kaiju Revolution? Do you want it to stay? Stuff like that. I didn't think it would be that hard. But with that, we get to our last person. David. Yes, it was teased by Cloverfield. Truly began with Pacific Rim and all doubt removed by the return of the God King of all monsters, Godzilla. And all signs of it continuingly with popular trading card games now. I currently run a Kaiju Yu-Gi-Oh deck in my local tournament, and the Battle Spirits TCG created a set of Toho monster cards for their game. Seriously, please bring that here to the USA. I always hated zombies anyways, always finding vampires to be far superior undead horror monsters, but the total glut of zombies, the media even has some zombie fans suffering from zombie fatigue. I hereby declare zombies are dead. The kaiju have returned. And he attached a picture of Godzilla 2000 mocking zombies he ate. On the top he said zombies, and on the bottom said burp. So you can guess what happened to those zombies. And with that, this is the usual part of the show where you get my useless opinion. Yay! As I have said before, these are great times to be a kaiju fan. You first have Ultraman Ganga S Movie Showdown, the 10 Ultra Brothers, first released March 14th, 2015. Attack on Titan Part 1, first released August 1st, 2015. The debut of the world's favorite podcast in the world, by far the world's greatest podcast, far ahead of those 00 chumps. The Kaiju Clash podcast, which aired globally September 19th, 2015. And on that same day, you had the first release of Attack on Titan Part 2, and I guess you can guess which one had more public support and views. Probably Attack on Titan Part 2. After that, you get to Shin Gojira, summer 2016, it's supposed to come out. Kong Skull Island, March 10th, 2017. Godzilla 2, June 8th, 2018. Before I get any further, I want you to, Shin Gojira, summer 2016, and the other two, Kong Skull Island and Godzilla 2, they both have dates, like specific dates, June 8th and March 10th, while Shin Gojira doesn't. Shin Gojira is made in Japan, while Kong Skull Island Godzilla 2 will be made here. So notice how Japan doesn't have specific dates while Americans do. Interesting. And somewhere around those dates I just gave, there just might, maybe if you hope a little too much, a Pacific Rim sequel, possibly, that might happen. And to end the confirmed future films, Godzilla vs. King Kong 2020. And not to forget the new Gamera movie that will be coming out. There is really no release date, possibly by the end of this year. So with all of those, you'll get sequels. I can sure bet that. And I can sure bet that those sequels will have their own sequels. Wow! So don't forget to mention the sequel of those sequels, and to the sequel of Pacific Rim that might or might not happen. Now this could possibly not even be the entire list you're talking about, because there's so many coming out that there's just so others that aren't confirmed but are in the making right now. So it's just not a coincidence that all these movies are coming out. We have seen this in different eras in time. With these are by a Godzilla scale, because normally in the Godzilla franchise, when they had their upward swing, every other kaiju movie studio or franchise normally had their kaiju upward swing. So the Showa series ranging from the 50s to 70s, the Heisei series from the 80s to 90s, the Millennium series from 1999 to early 2000s, and today. Please note this is a Godzilla scale again. This isn't really exactly for every movie, monster, movie franchise, but most people seem, when you say Showa, Heisei, or Millennium, they normally think of those times. So I think this is just the start of another major era that will be named in about another 10 years or so. So society in general has something that it likes, if you haven't realized. Right now we're in the superhero stage. First it was that stupid zombie stage thing. I agree a lot with David. The only thing in the zombie fad I liked was George Romero's was it Day of the Dead? I think it was. It was either Day of the Dead or Land of the Dead, but it was by now I'd probably say 7, 8 years old. It was a pretty good movie from him, and that was probably the only thing I liked from that whole zombie fad thing. And today we have the superhero thing, the Marvel DC Universe stuff. As I said, we are right now in the superhero stage where every movie that comes out is a superhero movie, and the franchises of certain superheroes are growing and expanding to other superheroes from the Marvel or DC Universe. Some people get annoyed by that and say there's too many coming out, and then there's others that say I can't wait for the next one. After a few years or so, or after a few years and or decades, fates come and go, and the superheroes are no exception. We're at the point where superhero movies rapid fire, and each week there's a new one. That's normally the last stage of any fad before it ends. Once a fad starts, it goes on either years or even decades. Once a fad ends, it starts producing things on the double like hotcakes for the purpose of getting new people into whatever that is. Then once they start producing really fast, people will find it annoying, hence less people will get into it, hence people stop getting into it after a while, hence fads die. So fads produce a lot in the beginning, and they also produce a lot in the end, and that's probably what kills it. And this goes for kaiju as well. First it was zombies. Oh, I'm glad I survived that. Then superheroes, and now it's the kaiju nerd's turn. It's hard to say when this so-called revolution begun, however, it's not a coincidence, again, that these kaiju movies started to pop up. I do honestly believe that this is in fact the kaiju's turn in this revolving fad table. So, the evidence is out there that there is a, indeed, Kaiju Revolution upon us. You have Godzilla and Gamera with movies, You, in fact, have a lot of kaiju movies coming out, and future Godzilla films are with different monsters like Mothra and Rodan. This is like kind of like Marvel or DC, where the superheroes are in their little film franchise, and then they head on to other film franchises from either Marvel or DC. This time it's just Godzilla, King Kong, Mothra, and more on one side, and on the other side, or brand, or different movie studio, you would call it probably, Gamera Geos, and that I have no idea what this kaiju's name is, but he was in the Gamera trailer and he looked awesome. So, not only that, but you see a rise in kaiju comics, kaiju Facebook groups. Speaking of kaiju Facebook groups, you should go and join the Gojira Godzilla Kaiju fan club, just an example of a revolution. And yes, I'm gonna say this podcasts. Yeah, I went there. You need proof? The Kaiju Cast, Kaiju Kingdom Podcast, and the almighty, all-powerful Kaiju Clash Podcast. And no, I wasn't paid to do those mentions. So, how long will this last? About as long as any other fad, depending on the audience and the impact it will have on the world. It could last a few years, or it could last a few decades. If you wanted my opinion, I would say I wish this lasted forever, in which I honestly do wish it will last forever, but unfortunately, it will not last forever, so it will die sometime. So, my clock gives it a tick tock, about 20 years, and before things die down, or I could be a babbling idiot and there won't be any kaiju fad whatsoever, and I'll just be that little kid that everyone picks at. So, in the hopeful universe where kaiju reigns and supremes all over the world, when will it end? Will you see superhero movies being produced like hotcakes on the double? Gives the impersonation to people of, please watch us again. We are making a lot of movies for you. We're getting kind of desperate. Please watch us. And I feel this will one day be like Toho and all the other movie studios. People get sick of one thing after being exposed to it long enough, and after a while, not many people get excited for Godzilla 8 as they were for Godzilla 2. So once that becomes public opinion again, movie studios will make kaiju movies on a double like hotcakes, and this will be the eventual death of the hence coming Godzilla Kaiju Revolution tsunami that will sweep us all. They will say, watch us, we're desperate, and we'll get Godzilla 8, Godzilla 9, Godzilla 10, we'll get Megalon's trilogy, la 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 la, and then they're gonna, and then you just give so much, that'll become a dying fad, as every fad has in the past. So that will be the eventual beginning and end of the great Kaiju Revolution that will sweep us all. So with that, we get to non-existent Kaiju news. Why is it non-existent this week? Well, for those of you who haven't heard, there was a blimp accident out of all places in the world, out of all places in the United States. It just had to happen at the undisclosed location of my hometown, Bloomsburg, Pennsylvania. So, what happened was a blimp went from Baltimore, Maryland. I didn't know if it was supposed to be in the air or not, but it did go in the air. And out of all places, it hovered again over my town, the undisclosed location, Bloomsburg, Pennsylvania. A line went untethered, went to the ground, pulled up trees, pulled up power lines, and those power lines just happened to take power out of my house. So, with that, I only had very extremely limited laptop time because my battery was so low as it was already, and the fact that I couldn't charge it, I couldn't do anything with it, so I couldn't do Kaiju news. So, I greatly apologize. It's not every day that you use a blimp as an excuse to get out of work. So, I don't plan on having a blimp come over my house again this week, next week at all. So hopefully nothing falls out of the sky. I'm convinced after a blimp just came down, an untethered line just pulled up everything, and we were out of power. I'm almost convinced that anything can happen now. Next week, it's going to be pigs coming from the sky taking out power lines, and the week after that, there will be a literal Godzilla coming through Bloomsburg. Anything can happen. I'm just not really looking forward to seeing what's going to come from the sky next time. So, again, I'm sorry for no news, but I guess blimps happen. Blimp happens. So, I wanted to address something else before we officially leave. It seems that in the past few weeks or so, doing this podcast, it kind of seems I'm biting more than I can chew. I have the 00 Wrestling Review. By the way, you can check it out, oowrestlingreview.com. And I have this podcast, the Kaiju Clash podcast. It's not really easy to manage my time properly, to do both podcasts properly as I should. I feel like sometime this week I just need to spend the entire day just getting focused on what I have to get done and getting it done. But if you enjoy this episode, or if you hate this episode, please send feedback. There's many ways you can do it. This will be on YouTube, so you can check the comments on YouTube. You can give us an iTunes, no, we don't even have iTunes. So you can give us a Stitcher review, send a comment through Spreaker, you can send feedback from our contact page from kaiju-podcast.com. You can go to our contact page and fill out the form below, or read the thing and see how else you can send feedback. I'm just wondering, am I doing this all for nothing? Don't worry, I'm not leaving it. I'm doing next week's show. I'm doing all the shows after that. I'm not abandoning one podcast for the other. I'm not abandoning any podcasts. Every week's just been a busy week, and it's been extremely busy since this podcast started. And I know there's a lot of things contributing, as in my social life. It's being football season, so gathering with friends are at an all-time high this time of year, so this may contribute too, but I'm definitely biting a lot more than I can chew, and with this power outage with the blimp, I'm only getting further and further behind. I just definitely need a lot more time than I have to work with, and I don't always utilize my time well. So if you like this episode, if you were laughing with me, if you laughed at me for some idiot who thought he was going on the mic, you can send feedback. Just tell me if I'm doing this all for nothing. If you enjoy this, please tell me. If you enjoy the episode, please tell me. If you have a recommendation for an episode, if you want me to talk about this topic or that topic, feel free to write to the show and ask me to do it. This is pretty much the end of the show now. Next week will be this is from popular demand. I asked people, what do you want? And this is the most that the people wanted, because believe it or not, more than one person asked for this. Gigan Monster Review. So next week, you'll get Gigan Monster Review. Now, this is going to be tricky because I don't have the right theme, because with Gamera, you had a theme. I don't have one for Gigan. So I'm going to have to look through the Godzilla vs. Gigan soundtrack and see what I can get. So with that, go to our website, www.kaiju-podcast.com. You can do many things on that website, as in checking out the niche, joining the Gojira Godzilla Kaiju fan club today. You can also go to our website to donate to Alex Strang's Patreon page from our site. You can make $3, $6, $10, $15, and $20 pledges. You can also go to our YouTube channel and subscribe from that site. Go to YouTube, type up the Kaiju Clash Podcast, and subscribe. You can also go to our Facebook page, Kaiju Clash Podcast. Make sure you give that a thumbs up, a like, and let the magic flow. Speaking of magic, you want more magic? Follow me on Twitter at Kaiju Revolution. How fitting. Speaking of this episode, there's more ways than two to listen to us. You can go to Spreaker to listen. You can go to Stitcher to listen. Figure reviews. How busy I've found myself lately. That's not going to happen anytime soon. Sorry about that. So that is a permanent impending hold until I say otherwise. Don't forget, next week, Monster Review, Gigan. Tell us your thoughts on him, and make sure to have a Kaiju-ly day. Goodbye.